I am sure sports. You know me there, from coast to coast representing. I mean, I say this is righteous representing for Omar. You don't know, come get the sports over here from near and far. Boy, 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 boy. Me say I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. I am sure sports, one thing me sure about. When me say sure, that me not doubt. Come get your sports, get it over here. Come subscribe, repost and share. If me not sure, that me not say it. Know who score, that me not say it. Never know no game play, that me not say it. If me never see no game, me no know who play. For your sports news, better come over here so. For your soccer news, then come over here so. If you don't love sports, still come over here. For the day done, you a go love over your son.
So when it comes on to behavior concerning football, Jamaica is decent. I am sure that if we can get all of these things done, set in place by the end of April, it gives us enough time before the World Cup campaign. Not afraid of no Brazil, no Argentina with these crapper players. We are good enough. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Listen, comment, let me know what your thoughts are.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome to I Am Sure Sports. I'm your host, Man, and it is my pleasure to be with you this morning. And a day when the Jamaica National Senior Team World Cup campaign is on a thread, being held by a thread, and they will take on Costa Rica today in the National Stadium, hoping to get a win for Coach Paul Hall in his fourth attempt in securing a win. His third game this will be in the World Cup campaign, as he had a friendly with the team against Peru. So looking for a win today. Game will be played at 7 p.m. in the National Stadium here in Jamaica. Looking forward to that game. We're going to be discussing that as well. But firstly, let us say a big thank you to our sponsors. The sponsors of this video, they are Prestige Finance, lending a helping hand when you need it most. You can call them at 876-884-7390. And here's what you do when you call them. Let them know that you heard about them on I Am Sure Sports. And if you do that, they will help you to get a loan of up to 100,000 Jamaican dollars. 100,000 Jamaican dollars. You'll have no processing fee, same day processing, and interest rate are between 0 to 4%. So call them now. Let them know you heard about them from I Am Sure Sports. All right, give them a call. Talk to them right now. Go start that business. Do something different. Start that business. Buy some more items for your shop, your store. Expand and increase. Deal with those school stuff that you need to deal with. Call Prestige Finance. Also want to big up Launch Legacy. Yes, Launch Legacy. They're also sponsors of this video. And if you're in North America, in particular in Canada or the USA, you need to visit or call Launch Legacy. Launch Legacy, handle risk and seek legacy for all your personal insurance needs in Canada and the USA. Visit them at launchlegacy.com or call or text 647-989-0782. Listen, I need you to talk to them, right? This is a good company that will help you to have better financial security as you get into retirement. At some point, you won't be able to do what you're doing. You won't be able to work for money. Your money will need to be working for you. Launch Legacy will be able to help you with that. In fact, on the 10th of February, they're having a major webinar on I Am Sure Sports. Right here, they will come in and share with you some of their products, financial products that is. But call them today, right now, and let them explain to you what they're all about. And I'm very sure that you will get some important benefit from them. Yes, so welcome to all our subscribers and viewers at this time. Again, it is our pleasure to have you. Hope you're having a top morning. Yes, yes, yes. Like I said, this is going to be a good show, and really can't wait to get into the discussion. We'll be having with us Bobby Murphy. Bobby Murphy, he is a former coach out there at Orlando City in the USL, and he's actually here in Jamaica on some very important business, and he's going to come and share that with us, and we're going to hear from him, about what is his take on our local league, our local players, and the opportunities of Jamaica opportunities still, out there for Jamaica to qualify for the World Cup. We're going to pick his brain and some of those things. Tomorrow as well, we have a big interview. Um, in the morning, we'll be having Mr. Alan Skillcole on the program. Yes, finally, he will be here with us, sharing his journey and his story. And then later in the day, we're going to have Life of Vergi, right? He's a Guadeloupean, um, and he speaks a lot of French. And so on the show, we'll have uh, someone who can interpret for us. So that promises to be a very interesting show. I'm not good at French. I don't. I know probably two words and a couple of phrases, but we will have Life of Vergi. He's from Guadeloupe, a coach over there, played some football as well, and we're going to talk about some football from that perspective come tomorrow. So keep those things in mind, yeah, as we go ahead. Also want you to know that Krista J. Daly, he was out there at Harborview last season, played for William Knibb in the Da Costa Cup. The season before that would be the 2019 season was his last season for William Knibb. Think he opted to come out of school. But well, there was no Da Costa Cup one season, so he missed his last season that he could have played. He was at Harborview, but he was actually owned by Holland FC over there in Trelawney. He was overseas, and we understand that he's signed by a club called Bonifica, right? However, he has been loaned out. Yes, he has been loaned out to Copa, K O K O PER. That's the name of the club, and he will be there until the end of this year, which is the end of 2022. The loan ends on the 31st of December 2022. And we want to congratulate the youngster and all the persons, the agent, the coaches, the clubs that, put this into action and caused it to have worked. And again, I will say this to all of us. We give the league out here, the local league, a hard time, but obviously there is talent. I don't know if you check throughout the pandemic, close to 20 teenagers have left Jamaica on on contracts, whether loan or complete purchases overseas, born and bred Jamaican footballers. All right? That the point is that we have the raw material. We have the raw material. And we need to continue to develop the raw material and make the raw material great material. And I think that is where our struggle is. We have not been able to take the raw material and make it great. And until we're able to do that, we're going to have problems. But I'm glad again to see so many youngsters moving directly from Jamaica into leagues overseas. Again, it is saying that it may not be the best, but work is going on, and people outside of the shores of Jamaica, they're appreciating the work that is going on. And so we need to pay more attention to the football in our nation and to the players. A prophet is of no honor in his own town. Maybe that we don't respect the footballers because we see them and we think that they are no good. But yet other clubs and people see them and pay money for them. We have also seen that with Akwasa Chang. And like I said, that Bobby Murphy, who is going to be coming on shortly, is here. And he has spotted talent that he wants to take overseas as well. And there are others who are going to be leaving the shores of Jamaica by summer overseas. So something is happening. It needs to be improved. It needs to be, the improvement needs to be expedited. It needs to be structured. It needs to be intentional. It needs to be direct. And until that happens, we're going to be having struggle after struggle. But we have our guest with us this morning, so I'm going to bring him on, and we'll have a discussion, very nice and good discussion. Hey, how you doing?
Good morning. Sorry for being late. There's some internet issues, but we're all sorted out.
Yeah, not a problem. Totally understand. In Jamaica, we say, well, Jamaican time. I don't know if you have.
Yes. So
But really,
then I'm right on time. I might even be early.
yeah, there you go. But I appreciate you coming on, Mr. Bobby Murphy. I know a lot of persons that they probably heard the name, but they're not familiar with you, right? And so, welcome to I Am Sure Sports. Welcome to the shores of Jamaica.
Thank
We know
you.
you're here. Then that means that good things are about to happen. Good things are happening, and it will be a continuation of good things for football in Jamaica. So just take a few minutes and share with the people listening and watching who is Bobby Murphy, so they can get an idea as to who you are.
Yeah. So my connection to the island actually goes back to college, where I played with Freddie Butler. He and I played together. And became very close friends and are still very close friends to this day. And he actually sent me down after graduation. I played for a little while, not for very long, but for a little while for Harborview. Lived next door to the old drive-in, right when they had just built the stadium, probably in 93, 94.
You played for Harborview?
Yeah, not for long, but for a little while. And yeah, and actually I have we were going to Oche and stopped at the roadside spot, and they made me drink the roots that the Rasta had on the side of the road. And the next thing I knew, I was going to be a father, so I had to go back and take care of responsibility. So yeah, I have Jamaica to thank for my firstborn son. But I've just been coaching since then. So, and for a long time I ran a residential academy in Austin, Texas. Where kids would live and train and come to go to school from all over the world, primarily U.S. kids, but we had a few from the Caribbean. We actually produced 6 or 7 first-round draft picks for Major League Soccer out of there, so we were draft picks, so we're happy with that. And then I moved on to Orlando City, where I was assistant coach for the first team, and interim head coach twice in a 3.5-year stretch. And then I worked for the Houston Dynamo with their second team and had Becky Beckford. He was
Sean Beckford.
Yes, so he played for me for a year, and then now I'm with Union Omaha in the USL, and we were league champs last year in League One. So, and just down here now, trying to find the next wave of players. We let a lot of players move on to bigger contracts with bigger clubs. And so we've got a lot of holes to fill on our roster. And so I've been down here watching games for the last few days. So
okay. Awesome. So you're at Omaha. That's a club that you're at.
Yes, it's called Union Omaha is the name of the club. It's in Omaha, Nebraska, which seems a strange place for soccer, but it's actually a really big soccer town. There's 2 Division I colleges that have men's teams, and there's also a pro team. And so in a town of 500,000 people, that's a lot of football for the United States, especially in the Midwest where it's American football is dominant. So the club's thriving and doing well. We're really proud of it.
Any Jamaicans out there playing now?
There were 2, and I forget their names now, that were playing at one of the universities, at University of Nebraska Omaha.
Okay.
But they were playing there. So what we've tried to do is broaden sort of our reach. You know, in our club we had a couple kids from Ghana, kid from Scotland. We have a graduate of La Masia, the Barcelona Academy, plays for us. Kenya, we had a Kenyan last year, and the DRC, Congo. And so now we're trying to come down here and see if there's talent that we can, you know, that'll help us, and we can in turn help move on and progress their careers as well.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things. I mean, what is your take on the local league? You have watched a few games, and you have worked with a few players who have come out of the local leagues, which is the Premier League here, the JPL, and also from out of the school board, the high school football competition. Those are really our major, probably our biggest competitions as a nation in terms of football. What is your take on the games that you have seen, on the players that you have seen so far?
Yeah, I think for sure, like just as it is in the US, the league is progressing. I think, you know, in order to progress, you need infrastructure, and to get infrastructure, you need investment. And that's what's happened in the US, and I see it starting to happen here. I was fortunate enough to have some conversations with some people from the league and how passionate they are about making sure that the JPL not just doesn't survive, but actually thrives. I think the move to most of the players being full-time professionals is huge. You know, when I was here, God knows however many years ago, you know, you'd have to drive around and pick up guys from their other jobs, and people would be late, and you know what I mean? People were doing the best they could, but now that this is their full-time job, I think that's huge. I think, so you see that start to translate onto the field. You know, there's a great blend of youth and then older players who come back to the island, you know, who will take on a mentoring role, I would imagine, for the young players. And I think that's tremendous. And I think in each game, you know, and I came down with really specific parameters of what we were looking for positionally. So, you know, there's players that have a lot of talent that I'm not considering just because that's not what we need right now. But in each game, there were for sure players that could move on to the USL in the States and have a career. So I think that shows that, you know, there's talent here. You know, it just needs the opportunity. And I think the league is trying to provide that opportunity and that platform for them to progress.
Okay. How important, let me just segue, because one of the struggles we have is sometimes how long a local player who we believe has a lot of talent stays in the USL without progressing from the USL. And sometimes that is a challenge. How important is the USL to the development of the game in the United States, and what purpose does it play in terms of the stages of progression for players?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to remember, right, that there's players everywhere, right? And to go to the USL and have a 10-year career where you're making decent money, there's no shame in that. You know, there's no shame in going off and having a 10-year career and doing well. But I think what you see, like, I think Junior Flemings is a really great example. He came, he got games, and out of the USL, he got his big move to France. And I think you're starting to see more of that. San Antonio just sold a homegrown player abroad. And so the US is becoming, and I think you see it, even if you just look at the MLS market, right? The number of young players that are going abroad from MLS to clubs in Europe. You see players from South America, from Argentina, that come to the US as a staging ground. I think, or Paraguay. I think Almiron's a great example, right? Would Newcastle have found him had he stayed in Paraguay, right? But he comes to MLS, has 2 great years. Next thing you know, he's playing in the Premiership. So I think there are a lot of eyes focused on the U.S. game right now, and so I think for anyone to get into the league, there's opportunity. For example, the Scottish kid we had last year had 14 goals for us. He was making okay money with us, but then he triples his wages by going up to the USL Championship, and it's good money he's on now. So there's those opportunities. I don't think anyone should look down on having a good, solid USL career, because the money just keeps getting bigger and bigger in that league. For sure, you aspire to go wherever the game takes you, but at the same time, it's a good life and it's a good career.
Yeah, because the USL Championship is where the Phoenix Rising and those teams are
Yes.
in. Right, and Omaha is in the tier below that.
Yes.
Right. So, is there any promotion from that tier to the championship, or is there any promotion in?
We don't have promotion. We don't have promotion relegation in the U.S. We just win our league and we stay in our league. But for example, we played Phoenix Rising twice in preseason, beat them twice. We played Sporting Kansas City's second team, which is in the USL Championship, and we beat them. So our team's competitive with any USL team. I'd put us up against anybody in the league. It's just a matter of investment from ownership and what they're prepared to do in terms of salaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So.
Very important. The other question, one of the other questions I want to ask is, I mean, talent is everywhere, right? And that's just the truth. There's loads of talent everywhere. What would separate like that Jamaican youngster that you find from talent elsewhere? What are some of the things about their game that would really say, wow? I mean, though they are similar in many ways, I probably can get more out of this 19-year-old in Jamaica than this 19-year-old somewhere else, as an example.
I think what attracts us to the Jamaican market is, one, the athleticism, right? The game in the U.S. is big and strong and it's fast, and you have to be willing to run and compete. So I think the athleticism for sure. I think that inherent competitiveness is important, right? There's a lot of pieces to the jigsaw puzzle to make a player, right? And so we look for players who are I call it anger. I don't know what other way to describe it. They play with a bit of anger in them, like they're desperate to win. You know, they might be nice off the field and, you know, for 22 hours of their day, they're kind, gentle souls. But the minute they step across the field, there's only one thing that matters.
They call it war, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that desire to compete and win, and I think, you know, what else you get is, I'm trying to think the best way to say it, right? That hunger, if it's the right player, right? That hunger and that desperation, right? And desperate may be too strong of a word, right? But that desperation to succeed, right? That I want to go on and I want to make something of this. You know, and I used to talk to Deshane Beckford about that all the time. You know, you have to play like there's no plan B ever.
Yeah. Plan
B is not like, well, I'm going to go work at that may be plan B in reality, but you have to play like there is no plan B.
Yeah. Like this is it.
That at any moment this could all be taken away from you, right? And I think even here, right, I came down and, you know, there's some players who turned my head who I wasn't expecting to turn my head because they had that. You could see that in them, you know, and I think that's something that can't be taught. You know, I think it's something that's ingrained in personally, personality-wise. And so I think that's hugely important.
Someone is saying that is the will to win. You know, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to win, don't they? I mean, oh, well, we all want to win, right?
Yeah.
But what are you prepared to do, right? And I think even, you know, we talked a little bit about the game the other day, the Portmore game where they played with so many young players, right? They held on and they won. They suffered. They suffered and they came through the suffering. And suffering is okay, right? And I don't know what other word to use, but sometimes you have to suffer to win, and you have to be willing to suffer. And those youngsters did it, and they got the result, and good for them.
Yeah. I mean, for the youngster, for the coach here in Jamaica listening to this now, he has some youngsters who desire to make the move overseas. You have worked with Jamaica. I know you have. I think you have coach Vinton Evans.
No, but we played against him.
Oh, you played against him.
Yeah.
But Duchesne Beckford is one Jamaican we know that you have worked with.
Mhm.
Any other that you have worked with throughout your career?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I can't
All
remember.
right.
Giles
All right.
Barnes. Giles is Jamaican, but
Giles Barnes. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, right. All right. So what I want to ask you is, if I'm here trying to get a young Jamaican into that market, what are some of the things that, I mean, probably technically or tactically, that would be good for us to work on as a nation to better prepare our players? Because you'd have seen some of the deficiencies in probably our approach to the game, our technical skills, or our tactical awareness. What era, from your views, we need to get our players better equipped to handle and deal with?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's hard, like, I don't know that it's fair for me to comment because I'm
Okay.
not there every day to see what people are doing. You know what I mean? And the coaches I've spoken to, they're working very hard here. You know what I mean? And so I don't know that it's fair to parachute in for 3 days and then say this and this is. But I think I think what I can compare it to are the differences that I see in the U.S.
Yeah.
game versus
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Go
that's
ahead. That would be good. Right. Yeah.
I think that's a more fair. I think there's a lot more space to play here. The game is stretched over 60, 70 yards versus in the US, especially in MLS, USL. The field is much more compact. People are playing in 30 yards of space, 40 yards of space, and from front to back, so that everything's faster and quicker, and you're always under pressure, and people press you much higher, and without real, they're willing to take risks when pressing.
Okay.
That seems to be the order of the day now is teams that go and press. And I know for sure we are in Omaha, we press like crazy. It's funny, we were talking, we don't want the ball sometimes. Like, everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
ball. We don't want the ball. We'd rather let you lose it in a bad spot so we can punish you in 2 passes instead of keeping it for 30. The goal still counts the same.
Yes.
But we would just as soon stay compact, stay organized, and pick our moments to spring, win it, and go. I think in the final, I was telling somebody this last night, and they were having a hard time wrapping their head around it. We won the final 3-0. We had 16 shots on 33% possession.
Yeah, because you basically gave up the ball and pressed in the right areas at the right time.
In transition,
yeah.
And even if we lose it, we're not bothered because we're going to win it right back.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to play forward, lose it, because then we'll pick up the second ball and then we go. So, and it's just a style, right? And there's all sorts of styles, and I don't think anyone's right, or
Yeah.
But that's the big difference I've seen is the space that players have to play in. That willingness to keep things compact and keep things tight and not let people turn. And
which means that our game is a little bit slower.
I don't know that it's slower. I just think it's more. It's just stretched. I think there's just more gaps to play in and more space from what I've seen.
Okay.
But but that doesn't make it wrong, and so I would hate to. I don't want this to be misconstrued that I'm the guy with all the answers.
No.
Because I'm certainly not. I'm just the guy here watching players. But that's just a difference for sure.
Yeah. Freddie's saying that, man, he used to give you a lot of piles and salads and so I'm just kidding. He's not saying that. He said Bobby protected me in midfield, and that allowed me to score 44 goals in 42 games.
Yes, they kicked him. I kicked them. and I think our relationship, right? And I think this is something that players need to understand. Know what you're good at, and don't be afraid to be really good at what you're good at. So if I was good at winning the ball and giving it to someone who was better than I was, there's no shame in that, right? I had no problem winning it protecting him, giving him the ball, and letting him go do his thing, right? It doesn't mean he was better than me, but it's just different,
He's
right?
more effective. He may be better, but not more effective.
Well, he wasn't more effective at my job.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? So respecting and appreciating how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, so America didn't qualify for the last World Cup.
No.
And from Jamaica looking on, it looked like they did a complete overhaul of their whole system. That's how it looked. And they just had this nucleus of youth just popping up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have had several field campaigns, right? What did America do that we could probably look at and take transferable principles? What did they do to kind of get this nucleus of, like players that will be there for 2026 for the most part?
Yeah. U.S. soccer invested a ton of money in the youth game. So they set up what was called the Developmental Academy League. So to be in the league, it was a nationwide league. You had to meet certain standards. So there was a training, there was a culture of playing games in the U.S. and not training. So you had to then train 4 to 5 times a week, play one game. There was limited substitutions because back then, and before this in the U.S., you could sub as many times as you wanted to. So there was a real emphasis on player development from the youth up, and that's where then there was the investment of the MLS clubs and their academies, right? You look at FC Dallas and the amount of money they've generated, the players that they've produced, right? Dallas is a huge city; it's a huge hotbed, tons of talent, but FC Dallas really harnessed it, developed it, and then has been making money off it. So that was a huge part of it was the accreditation and the setting of standards for being a recognized elite youth club. So I think that has really helped. That's Weston McKennie, Pulisic, Aronson. All those kids have come through. Reggie Cannon. And then the kids getting the opportunities to then go across to Europe. And you supplement your pool, don't you, with a really competitive domestic league in MLS, right? And so we just have, it's hard to compare because what are we, 300 million people in the U.S.?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
We are like 3 million.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? So
and the money as well. The gap financially is.
And I think I said it earlier, like infrastructure, but that comes with investment. And I think you're starting to see this now. You've got to be patient because it doesn't happen overnight. But from talking to everyone, just the sense I get that there's a real sense of hoping for increased investment. But I think the other thing in the U.S. that we're trying to strike a balance with is the playing of the game with our natural identity of being Americans, that we're just going to win and we're competitive and finding that balance of the two. But we have an identity as Americans. We know who we are. We run and we play and we compete and we won't be told no. And that's just something that translates onto the field with us a little bit that, I've seen, and if you talk to people, some of the kids now, there's too much of an emphasis on the playing the beautiful game part and not enough on the grit and determination part, right? And so it's for us now, I think it's striking that balance of the two. And we could be a force, and I think, the other thing the U.S. has done is you look at just the makeup of our squad, that the game is now reaching different communities across the country that it wasn't reaching 15, 20 years ago. Where the faces in the shirts more reflect what our country looks like, and I think that's a testament to U.S. soccer really, working hard to make the game more inclusive. For a long time, it was for those who could afford it. So,
yeah. Someone is asking, can soccer in the U.S. compete with basketball and football for American top talent?
I mean, I would like to have seen. Could you imagine LeBron James playing center back? I think what you're seeing is right, and I'll speak to my experience in Orlando. Right, we were a new franchise in Orlando. We had a 26,000 seat stadium, sold out every game. We were bigger than the Orlando Magic, the NBA team. locally.
Whoa.
I would say. Obviously, they play more home games than us.
Right.
You know, I mean, but we outdrew them consistently because they would average 14,
Whoa.
15,000. We would get 25, 26,000. Monday morning sports talk radio.
Every home game.
When I was there, yeah.
Whoa.
So now you're seeing, you know, like Austin, the new franchise in Austin. You can't get a ticket in Austin. You just can't get one. 22,000 every game sold out. So I think, yes, we can compete with them. I think soccer is competing with them, but I don't think it has. I think in the local markets and in the soccer world, yes, but it's not like front page of Sports Center. You know what I mean? Like the NBA will always be front page of Sports Center. The NFL, it won't be the MLS Cup, but the game keeps growing and growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's yeah, I mean, it's the horse has left the barn. It's just gonna keep growing. So I think just stay tuned for that.
Okay. One of the other struggles we have had in Jamaica is we recruit a lot. I mean, a lot of Jamaicans who live outside of Jamaica, right? Like this team, we have the Mikel Antonio, and sometimes as fans, we believe like it would be good if all of these players were integrated earlier in the system. I know this time around, USA had a lot of play. I think a lot of these players that ended up playing for the USA were, I don't know if they were actually raised playing football in the US. They seem to have been in Europe early, but somehow they all seem to integrate and there's a chemistry with them. What facilitated that happening?
You know,
like McKenny was in Juve, Tyler Adams.
Yeah, but they all grew up here until they were 16 years old. I mean, there is a, you know, Tyler left when he was 19 or 20. So Weston left when he was 16, 17. Christian left when he was 16 or 17. They all grew up here.
Reno?
Yeah, Gio grew up. He was a New York City Academy kid.
Okay, so they all grew up in the academies and then they left. So they kind of have.
Yes. Okay. Now, I'm not a labor lawyer, but I think there's a loophole. It's hard, but I think because of child labor laws in the U.S., you know, if a kid like Weston McKennie, Dallas got no FIFA training compensation fees for, I don't think, because he left before he signed a full pro contract, and because of child labor laws in the U.S., FC Dallas wasn't entitled. So they lost out on Weston McKennie money.
Oh, because he couldn't sign, though he was in the academy.
Yeah, he was only an academy player. He wasn't signed to a pro contract when he left.
Yeah, what about Dest?
He grew up in Holland. He's Dutch American.
Okay, so it's not really a lot then. So a lot of the players in the USA team grew up through the academy system in the USA, and there was one general same kind of system across all academies.
Yes.
That was a big overall. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where this whole generation has come up out of, is that academy system, and it keeps producing players left and right.
So how did they get the coaches to apply the same practices across all the academies? Is it that all of you had to recertify, get recertified, or go through a particular training to learn what US soccer was doing?
No. I mean, there was some autonomy to what the academies were doing, teaching within the academy. So, because if you look at it, like just geographically, we're so different. So kids in Dallas, just of their makeup, they're going to be more Hispanic kids who are going to play a different way than kids in Columbus, Ohio, or Seattle. So there was not a dictate in terms of style, but there was a dictate and a mandate and an accreditation that required investment, training hours, logging what you were doing for training. And US Soccer would actually send staff members around to visit clubs to make sure they were doing what they said they were doing. Oh. So people were being held to standards in terms of infrastructure, training hours, et cetera, not really a philosophical, stylistic approach. Now, many of those approaches became similar and are similar, but there was no mandate of how people had to play.
Okay, but is there a system for US Soccer that all on the male side, from the junior team to the senior team, they all play a particular system?
That's left up to the club, right? And there's always differing thoughts on that. Some clubs will say we're going to play 4-3-3 throughout, or we're going to play a possession-based game, or But if you look at Red Bull, for example, right? Their mandate comes from Red Bull in Germany, Austria. They're going to play
RB Salzburg and RB Leipzig. Yeah,
they all play the same style, which is going to be pressing, counter-pressing, style versus FC Dallas, which may play differently. So no, there's not. So, but within the club, there's different. Each club will then have their own philosophy and their own methodology of what they're doing and to produce their. And I think if you look at the clubs that do well in the U.S., and I would put ours in there, but I would, MLS clubs, they know who they are, they stick to the plan, and they go and get players and teach players to follow that plan. Right. So, for example, I might have seen a player this weekend that's an unbelievable talent, but he doesn't fit what we do. It doesn't take away his talent or deny his talent. We're just not the right spot for him. And we have to, as a club, stay disciplined to who we are. Otherwise, things start to go sideways and you lose your identity. Right. And so I think identity is becoming a really big thing with the teams that do well. They know who they are. And they stick to the plan.
Okay, with the national teams though in the US, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the US U17, U20, U23s, senior men's team. Do they have that identity where all of those U teams play, or depending on who the coach is? Does the coach come in and say, "This is what I'm going to do," or US soccer has a handbook, a style of play that the U17 supposed to use, regardless of who the coach is. So when they get to the senior team, it's the same way the wing back play or the center forward play.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get that continuity through all the teams. They're trying to. I'm sure. I don't know. I haven't been privy, but I'm sure they have profiles that they look at. Positionally. And I think one of the big leaps we have in the U.S. is that we're no longer a country. We used to be a country of central midfielders, in the sense that all the best players were central midfielders, and then you try and make a central midfielder play right back or something. Now we have, you know what I mean? We have profiles for right backs now and left backs and center backs and that type of thing. So, but I think, I think throughout the national teams, we're primarily 4-3-3 and trying to keep the ball as best we can and break lines and, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Someone is then saying that Dest, Musa, and Weah are outside players, like they weren't developed.
Yep. Jonathan Brooks is another one who grew up in Germany.
Oh, yes.
So there's a few of them, but we are, producing more of our own as opposed to going out and finding.
Okay. Rob Smith says that soccer is still an expensive sport in America, and this is why they are not a world power. The best athletes in America, they are not playing soccer because it is very expensive. Is it more expensive than basketball? Is it more expensive to play soccer than it is to play like basketball, American football, and baseball?
I think it has been for a long time. There's travel involved, and then you'd have to pay the coaches, and yes, it would be very, very expensive. I would say, I can't say all, but a lot of the MLS clubs now are all free. So if you end up in an MLS academy, they pay for everything. You get shoes, you get training gear, you get travel, you get coaching, the whole 9 yards. It's all taken care of by the club. So I think clubs will invest easily $1 million US in their academies every year.
Okay.
And that's no small investment per club.
Yeah.
And still, I would still say grassroots soccer can still be expensive for people who pay to play. You know what I mean? I think we still have a lot of work to do to get into communities where people can't afford it and find avenues for them to play. I think there's talent that we miss for sure that's playing I lived in Texas, right? And so I'm sure there were kids playing in men's leagues somewhere that never got a chance that could have easily done it had they had different circumstances. And so I think that is a concern, and I think it's something that we're trying to address. But I think it's, for sure it's getting better in a lot of ways.
Okay, I see. Because someone was just asking about is there a pay to play system for children? But you're saying that that's not it's general across the board, except that you go into one of the MLS academies. You get everything free, and that is right. And that is if they would have to come to like one of your academies as an example and spot that player, and then move him to their academy.
Yeah, and we don't even have an academy yet because we're a small city. Okay. Is it really worth the investment? Is there the talent pool there to just say you have it? You know what I mean? I think we're still trying to become financially viable on our own as a first team. So I think there's a lot of discussion about it, but I think that it comes down to dollars and cents. But I think there's people like Freddie in the U.S. who work for a club that may have some pay to play, but are going to, he's calling me all the time about providing opportunities for kids. And I think there's more of that happening now. But I think, the average kid would pay to play for a youth club, and, can be as high as $1,500 a year, I would guess, plus maybe some expenses on top of that. So it is pricey for sure. We don't have it perfect. We don't have it figured out.
Okay. Well, this is Boris Johnson. He's a coach. He coaches over there in the US. Can you shed some light on the USL too? Because there's some confusion with the USL in terms of what players think.
So USL, so we'll start at the top. USL Championship is the top division of USL, which is the recognized second division of the US. Then there's USL League One, which we are in, which is a fully professional league. USL 2 is an amateur league that is nationwide. It is broken into divisions. They play usually primarily over the summer, and it's a good vehicle for college kids to stay fit over the summertime. The level can be very good. So that's USL 2 in a nutshell. But it's primarily an amateur league. Usually clubs will provide maybe housing or some side jobs for people to come and play. But some, in some markets, like 2 hours from us is Des Moines, Iowa, and then their USL 2 team has a huge following. So big that Des Moines just committed to starting a USL championship club in 2 years.
Okay. So you have MLS, USL Championship, USL 1, USL 2.
And now you have MLS Next, which is a parallel third division with USL League One, which is basically a reserve league for MLS. So MLS is now not only investing in their academies, they're investing in a second team of players, which will play a full schedule. So that's, it's been harder for us to sign players because that's 250 more jobs that are out there, opportunities that are out there, that we're now competing with.
What about I know Freddie has a team that is in the US. I think
the UPSL.
UPSL.
Right. Which I think is another amateur league, which would be a comparable league, I think, to USL 2. I would think.
Oh, okay. So it's at the same. It's just I see.
Yeah.
See. All right.
It would be comparable to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And some of these have to do with like how much it costs for an owner to get into the league, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know all the ins and outs. I'm not an expert on all of that, but it's just more opportunities for players.
Okay. Can you sign a player who is not going college for these squads?
Which squad? USL 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Historically, it's been a vehicle for college players to stay fit. But there are some teams that'll have 25, 26-year-old still amateur players playing on USL 2 squads.
Okay. This is very, very interesting. So there's a lot of football because with all of these there's a lot of football being played. I mean, right across the United States, which is why I think football there has has evolved. I mean, you're seeing more and more players. You see Pepe, I mean, just getting a contract to leave. Matt Turner just, I mean, moving to the United States. We also noticed that uh, he just signed for Arsenal. Trusty
Turner, the goalkeeper.
Matt Turner, and then
Oh,
there's
Trusty as well. Yep.
right, right. I
And
mean,
so, and I think that, like, even in my family, right, the best way to describe how the game is evolving and growing. My dad played in the College World Series, which is the college baseball's elite.
baseball. Yes.
Yes, he was drafted by the New York Mets in two generations. My kids never played baseball; they only played soccer.
Oh,
So that's just my family, right? So that's across the board. A lot of families, grandfathers played American football. Grandkids will never put on a helmet; they'll just play soccer. So it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think the other thing that really helped the game, funny enough, was FIFA, the video game. I
yeah.
think I think kids then knew players, right? Oh, I want to be Thierry Henry, or I want to be, you know what I mean? And I think that made the
And
game.
you call a good name right there. You should let
Yeah.
them all know. Thierry Henry. I'm glad that's the first name you mentioned.
Well,
Being
I'm
an
a
Arsenal.
Spurs fan. So maybe. But,
Oh well. I'm not sure Harry Kane is on FIFA.
yeah. But yeah, I think that really helped the game grow as well.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I mean, I know you have a lot to do today because I mean, so I don't want to keep you any longer. And we have the game coming up, but let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the Jamaica senior team? I mean, you have watched a couple of the games. I mean, we're in a very peculiar position. Look, almost impossible that we can progress to even fourth place at this time. Nothing is impossible though. But I mean, having watched some of the games, what do you think? Given what most of us in Jamaica believe that there is this huge talent pool.
But I would ask, right, in defense of the players, for there to be some perspective. And we mentioned it earlier, 300 million versus 3 million.
Yeah.
Right? So I would, in defense of the players, I would ask for some perspective. I would also, I think there is talent there. I think you can't teach experience. Sometimes you have to walk through fires and come out the other side. And I think you look at the Mexico game, right? The other night, huge disappointment. It came down to a moment, right? Games come down to moments, and you have to learn how to get through those moments and learn how to see that result out the last 10 minutes. And they will. And, and as the player pool increases, they get more experience, they learn these things, I know it's disappointing, and I know everybody wants to be in the World Cup, but I think, I would. Those players play. It seems to me they play hard. They're not taking. They're not just showing up and going through the motions. And I think it's always going to be hard for smaller countries in CONCACAF, especially with Canada now and what they've done with their players. I think they're the biggest story in CONCACAF right now. I coached two of those players at Orlando City, Kyle Larin and Richie Larea. And, I think it's always going to be difficult, but I think you just have to, stand by your team and love them and, respect the effort that they do put in. And we don't always get to do what we want to do. And that's just part of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what they said though, because Freddie taught me this some time ago that, you coach the game, you coach the situation, and you coach the moments. All right. You just said that there are moments, and that is the issue I think we have. Like, we keep having the same moments in every game, and you wonder like, oh my, when are we going to fix our coach the moment, because it's a recurring moment. But as a coach, how do you how much responsibility, because you coach, I
I
mean, how
do.
much responsibility is it the coach getting what he wants the players to do in the players' mind and for them to execute that.
And
Or
I think it's
the players just not able to execute it in those moments.
and that may be the case. I don't know. I know I've had players who just couldn't do it. They weren't good enough, and okay.
Okay.
But that's not to say the Jamaican players aren't good enough. But I think for a national team coach, it's very difficult. You have such limited face time with them to get across ideas and put in plans. And I think, to be honest, I think CONCACAF's like one of the hardest regions to qualify in. Like if you're in Europe, Europe's pretty much Europe. You go to like Denmark or Holland or Belgium, it's all pretty much the same, right? You come to Jamaica for the US, that's hard. For Jamaicans to go to Panama, that's difficult. You have to go to El Salvador, that's another difficult challenge. So I think there's a lot of circumstances, and I think, we just say it all the time, like you can't teach experience. Like sometimes you just have to go through these things and hold your hand up that we did the best we could. I say it all the time to players, right? Learning is a change in behavior. And so, when we go through these experiences, either we learn, which means we change our behavior. We take a different approach, different actions, whatever it is. And if you refuse to learn, okay, that's all right. Then we'll find somebody else.
You get burned. You get fired from the job.
Yeah. And so, and I know the pressure, I can't even imagine the pressure that the players feel and the responsibility that they feel. Having just never coached at that level, with national teams, but like, at MLS, the players feel a huge responsibility to the communities they represent, and when things don't go well, they're people, and it hurts. And we never want to let people down, do we? You know what I mean? Whether it's your parents or your kids or your country. So,
yeah. Listen, man, I want to thank you for coming on.
This has been a treat. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
We will talk a whole lot more because I know you can't tell us which players you don't want to call any names that you probably saw, but maybe when you're over there and we see players there, we'd love to talk to you again to find out how they are progressing and to share some of your thoughts. I want to hear you and Coach Freddie talk some football.
Yeah.
See that,
I'll talk to him anytime.
Yeah, so we will talk some more. I hope you haven't been having any more of those roots on the street side,
No roots. But I've been eating like everything that's put in front of me. And then today I'm going down to Rockers on Orange Street to buy records.
Records, like actual.
The vinyl. Yeah. So I'm going down there this afternoon.
Are you going to play those, or you just want to buy them as souvenirs?
No. I have a record player at home. Yeah. Last time I was here, I went down there and bought a bunch. So, yeah.
So you love Jamaican music?
Yes.
What are some of your favorite artists?
I'm actually good friends with Mojo Morgan from Morgan Heritage. I've had the pleasure of meeting Stephen and Damien backstage in Orlando at shows. So I'm more of an old school roots guy, but I'm old, right? So like this dance hall, like the new stuff, like it's not made for me. You know what I mean? It's made for the kids, so the kids can enjoy it, and I'll just go rummage around and find the old 45s.
Okay. So you like your Dennis Brown and Peter Tosh or your Bob Marley? No Vibes Cartel or these new guys.
Little Alton Ellis, to swoon the ladies at times. So.
Okay. Yeah. You know what's going on. Look like Freddie got you into the Jamaican music. And what is your favorite? What Jamaican food do you enjoy eating?
The hardest thing to get in the U.S. is the oxtail. So I like sitting down oxtails, and then, to be fair, every time I've been here lately, my first stop is Glorious for some fried fish. So
in Port Royal.
Yeah, and actually we missed the one in Port Royal, so I went to the ocean front when I got here on Saturday. So the one there.
Okay. But oxtail is hard to get in the to get in the state.
It's hard to get good oxtails. Well, I'm in Nebraska too. You know what I mean? So it's like in Florida it was much easier. I will give you that.
Okay. Hey, you need to let Freddie work on that for you, man.
Yeah.
Good
And it's hard to get, and in Nebraska, it's impossible to get patties. So I got to try and find a way to smuggle some patties back for my dog. So, because she loves those.
Okay. All right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, we want to thank you for coming out, looking at the talent here. Like I
My
always
pleasure.
tell people that sometimes because we are right in it, we don't get to appreciate the talent around us because they are so close to us that we don't see them, and sometimes we need someone from the outside to remind us that they are talented players here. Like I shared earlier, that we have close to 20 teenagers who have left Jamaica since last year into all different places in Europe. And still we will say we have known talent, which is really not the case. So I'm glad that you're here. It is evident to us by you being here in Jamaica that there is talent and someone is seeing and identifying that talent. So thank you
Yeah,
again.
my pleasure. And I'm always grateful to be here, and everybody's always so kind to me. So I'm always happy to come anytime I get the opportunity.
Yeah, man. And I'll see you at the game. I'll see you at the game later.
All right, I'll have it. I've got a shirt for you, so we'll get you an Omaha shirt so you can
Ah,
rock that next week. All right.
all right. Yeah, so
All right.
you see I have my PSL.
I know we got to get you. We'll get you a scarf. Yeah, we'll get you set up. We'll have. Yeah, yeah, Union Omaha will become the official
The
USL.
official, yeah, Freddie, we're taking this down, Freddie.
You just put it on the other side.
Yeah. All right, so we'll talk later. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you
All
get
right.
some good final done by Rockers.
Yep.
Go down today. Yeah,
So,
man. All right.
all
And
right.
listen, so the people are going to be following Union Omaha,
Yes.
right? In the USL 1.
And we get voted every year like one of the best badges in the country because it's a good little badge. It's got an owl on it, and our uniforms are neon green, the same color as the eyes of the owl. So because the owl's eyes glow at night. So
Oh, well, I'm going to enjoy wearing that shirt.
yeah.
I'll tell you
So
that.
all
All
right.
right. Yeah, man. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very grateful.
Yeah, man. Bless you.
Take care.
All right, people, there you have it. Bobby Murphy, what insight and vision shared about the football. So you see it, we really have talent here in Jamaica. If we would just take the time to identify and appreciate our own. Um, yeah, we are on the hour mark. We're going to end this. We're going to change up the thumbnail and the description, and then we're going to come back in around half an hour looking at the Reggae Boys game before we go. We don't this was not a Reggae Boys discussion. This was just Bobby Murphy. So we're going to change the thumbnail and the description and the title for the video, and then we're going to come back with our Reggae Boys um preview, match preview. All right. I want to thank all of you for joining. Tell people about this, right? I can't call the player's name, but there are players who he watched that he's very, very impressed with. His club doesn't need all of them, but very impressed with them. There are some good players in the league. They need work, they need development, but they are good players in our league, and we need to realize that. All right. Thank you for your time. Thanks to our sponsors, Launch Legacy, Handle Risk, Seek Legacy for all your personal insurance needs in Canada and the USA. Visit launchlegacy.com or call or text them at 647-989-0782. You can also support Prestige Finance, lending a helping hand when you need it most. You can call them at 876-884-7390. They will give you a personal loan to help you with all your financial needs. All right, please hit the like button, share the content with someone else. And if you have not yet subscribed to the platform, go ahead and do so. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be back with you in around half an hour time. I'm Management. Thank you for watching another show on I Am Sure Sports.